So I mentioned one of the first things that you're doing when you're seeing your bear is to separate the circumstances, which are the neutral facts, from the beliefs, which are the thoughts you choose to think. Now, I want you to look at this list right here and call out what are the ones that are facts, that are circumstances. So things like, my boss is difficult to work for. My employee is so hard to manage. I have an employee. I love my job. I hate my job. I am not enough. I am enough. I'll give you a second to go through this list and once again highlight which are the ones that are facts. Some of you are looking at the one on the right. It's hard to live with being bipolar or any other mental illness that you might have. What do you think? Is that a circumstance, a neutral fact, or is that a belief that you're choosing to think? All right, you ready for the answers? Highlighted in red are the only four that are circumstances or neutral facts. I have an employee. I have a mother-in-law. I have cancer. I weigh 200 pounds or 90 kilos for those in Europe. Now, some of you might be thinking, why does it matter? Let's go to the one with cancer. Whether I say to myself, I have cancer, or it's hard to live with cancer, why does it matter? It matters because everything outside of the circumstance is within your control. Now, some of you might be thinking, hold up, Joe. You're telling me that I'm causing the suffering that I'm feeling because I have bipolar or because I have cancer or because I hate my job or because of whatever different situation you tell me. I'm the root cause of the problem. I'm the Semmelweis that has the germs on my own hands. Yes, that is exactly what I'm telling you. And the reason why I'm excited to tell you this is because if you're the problem, or better said, if the thoughts that you're choosing to think and believe in your mind are the problem, then you are also the solution. That's some of the most empowering information you're going to ever hear, and it's true. You can control the stories you tell yourself about any circumstance in your life. So the question to ask yourself is, are those beliefs serving you? And if they're not, let's dissect them, let's understand them, let's become aware, and let's bear up level how you're thinking so that you can get the results in your life that you really want. I hate my job. Have you ever said that? If you haven't, have you had employees come up to you and say that? As an HR executive, it happens all the time. Now, they might not come into my office and say, Joe, I hate my job, but it'll come up as I'm thinking about leaving. I don't like my boss, whatever it might be, but I hate my job. In fact, I had something in my own life where I had a job that I absolutely loved. I woke up excited to go into work. I was doing great life-changing type of work. I loved it. And then I was talking to one of my friends that just got a new job. He switched companies and he went on to actually make 7 figures, so over $1 million a year. And I remember thinking, awesome, good for him. And at first I was excited for him. I really, truly was. But then the thoughts started creeping into my subconscious mind a little bit of, hold up, Joe, you don't currently make that amount. There's a problem here. So I went from loving my job to over time getting deeper and deeper, all the point to where I finally said, I hate my job. It didn't start off that way. It started off as I love my job, and then it was, man, I really wish I was paid more. Or another thought was, maybe they just don't value me enough because I'm not making the amount that I think I should be making here. And then my work isn't valued here. And then you can see how this is a slippery slope down to it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but no, hold up, Joe. If I say I hate my job, it's a fact. I really do hate my job. But that's where the beauty in this lies, is once you can separate the fact from the story you're telling yourself, it then puts you back into control. So I hate my job. Where would you place it in the bear model? Is it a circumstance, a neutral fact, a belief, an emotion, an action, or a result? It's a belief that you're choosing to think. I hate my job. Now, when you think to yourself, I hate my job, what emotion does that bring up? Be honest with yourself. Now, it could be frustrated, discontent, whatever it might be. Now, when I'm feeling that way, discontent, frustration, anger, what actions do I take or not take? Now, for me, realistically, I'm not going to go above and beyond. I'm not going to put my best foot forward. Feeling that way, I can't. The emotional fuel that's running throughout my body is not going to trigger the actions that would produce different results. They're going to produce the actions that would be there. So you don't show up the way that you would like. And the result is you then have a job where you're not producing, which gives you more evidence to say, this is a job that I don't like. I hate my job. Now, what would you call the circumstance here? Remember, it's something neutral, no judgment to it, so I'll just call it my job. All right, so up to this point, we've only talked about how do you see your bear, which is becoming aware of your current, usually unintentional model. Now, so many times when people try to then change it, they then focus on the action line. And the concern with that is when you try to change action, you'll usually pull on willpower. And willpower is only temporary. It's similar to those hourglass that only has a certain amount of sand. You only have a certain amount of willpower before it runs out, and then you're going to go back to whatever your other thing is. It's similar to holding a beach ball underwater. You can hold it down for a little bit, but eventually that beach ball is going to pop out. So instead of just focusing on the action, we want to get down to the root cause. So before we bear up, let me share one other thing. We don't want to just solve for the symptoms, but solve for the root cause. And the root cause is always the thoughts you choose to believe in your brain. Going back to the Ignaz Semmelweis example, instead of cleaning up your hands, we're going to help you to clean up your own mind, to bear up by becoming aware of the beliefs that aren't serving you and discover the new beliefs that's going to bring about the results that you want. All right, so the start of bearing up, after you become aware of your bear model and you fully allowed yourself to see your bear, to sit in that emotion, to understand the different thoughts that are going on, you can then start the process to try to bear up, which is to think deliberately new intentional thoughts. There's a few different ways that we help you do that. And it all starts at the root cause, which is your beliefs. There's 3 different types of beliefs that I focus on. Beliefs about yourself, beliefs about others, beliefs about what the past was, the current is, and the future can be. Now think about it. That's it. Anytime I'm trying to influence, and leadership is just intentional influence, I focus on these 3 different beliefs with that person. Beliefs about themselves, about others, about what the past was, current is, and future can be. And by being able to help them to change those beliefs or to think differently, it will then propel them to have different emotions, to then take different actions, to then get different results. So the next question is, how do I think new thoughts? How do I direct my brain in this belief line to be able to think differently? I'd say there's 2 main ways. The first way is you redirect your brain. Now, as I mentioned, I studied similar to a master's in additional cognitive science. So I'm not going to bore you with all the different terminology, but I will give you one term. It's called the reticular activating system, RAS. Remember, I mentioned earlier that our brain was designed to be efficient. So it's going to keep thinking the same thoughts it's always thought and put them in the back of our brain. Your reticular activating system is what tells your brain what to focus on. And it's only going to pull out the things that you want to focus on. I remember one time I was trying to buy a car. And if you were to ask me at the very beginning of the process, what are the different cars on the market? I probably couldn't tell you. Maybe 1 or 2. But then once I started getting in the market, I remember one of the cars that I wanted was a Honda Civic. It's practical. It's me. Honda made a Civic just for me. But then when I was on the road, it was almost like the only car that I would see was a Honda Civic. And the reason why is because I placed in my reticular activating system something that said, focus on Honda Civics. And then it would bring out and highlight, hey, Joe, there's a Honda Civic, there's a Honda Civic, there's a Honda Civic. That's why we spend a lot of time setting goals, dreaming of the different future results that you want, because it helps set aside that motion of the RAS to be able to work for you, to pull it out. Things aren't just happening to you, they're happening for you. And so you want to consciously, deliberately start pulling out what you want to focus on. So we're going to help you redirect your brain. So when I'm thinking of a new thought that I want to believe, I have to keep thinking it over and over and over again until the point that I actually believe it. And so I'll write it on my mirror. I'll put it in my pocket. I'll set a reminder on my phone. I'll put it as my screensaver on my phone. I'll have an alert pop up in my calendar. Whatever you can do to be able to help your brain say, hey, focus on this, focus on this. That's how you direct your brain. The second other main way is we help you to believe new thoughts. And there's a few different strategies that we use for this. The most common two are to ask great questions. So let's say you're trying to change the thought of you hate doing the dishes. You can ask your brain, okay, how could I make doing the dishes more fun? And that simple question will then focus your brain on trying to find a solution. So instead of thinking to yourself, I hate doing the dishes, I hate doing the dishes, it's going to say, okay, how could I make this more fun? And it's going to start finding solutions on how to make it more fun. And eventually, you start believing it's more fun. The second different way is what's called laddering up your thoughts or bridging your thoughts to a new thought. Now, let's go back to this example of my job. I hate my job. Now, once you get to the point where you say, okay, I realize that's a thought that I'm thinking. Is that thought serving me? No. No, it's not. In fact, that's why I tell people, don't ever change jobs or bosses while you're feeling unhappy or discontent in that current job. Get to the point where you can bear up and you feel fine about that. And then if you still want to change your job, change it. Same thing for spouses or anything else. But until you can bear up and have a clean mind, don't take action based off of that. Now, as you're laddering up or bridging your thought, you could go to the extreme at first. So you could say, if I hate my job, the extreme would be, I love my job. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but I don't believe it. That's the point. In order for it to work, to be a belief, two things have to happen. One, you want it to feel good to think. And two, you have to believe it. Otherwise, it's not a belief. So if you don't believe it, that belief isn't going to help you. And so what we do is we ladder it up. I can't just go from I hate my job to I love my job. So you try to think, what are the different ways, like a ladder, that you could start here and then eventually go here and then go here. So for example, try on this one. I have a job. Simply saying I have a job feels different. I have a job feels different than I hate my job. Now, sometimes you're just going to bridge it to something more neutral. It's not going to immediately go to, I feel great, I love my job. No, but you want to bridge it to something that's believable. It's similar to somebody that's trying to lose weight. They wouldn't go from, I hate my body, to all of a sudden waking up one day and be like, wow, I love my body. No, they have to believe it. But what if you could switch it from, I hate my body, to simply, I have a body that's able to move? It then goes into a feeling that's a little bit more neutral. And then over time, you bridge up that feeling until you finally get to the point where whatever thought you're thinking gives you the feeling that you're wanting, whether it's committed, dedicated, whatever it might be, that then propels you to take the actions you want or not take the actions you don't to get the results that you actually want. So the person that's thinking to themselves, I have a job, versus the person that's thinking, I hate my job, do you think they would have different results on how they show up in their workplace? Yes. And the person that's waking up thinking, I love my job, even another higher level of results that they would get, because they're going to propel different actions.